Okay, let me say what I hear in this small little letter or question. I hear that this mother is really, really struggling, okay? And let me just say to you, I wish me and my wife could just give you a hug. Because you're special. But life is driving you crazy. And you feel it, and you struggle. And it's clear in the words that you say. And I wish we could just embrace mothers like that more. So, I'm saddened by the pain that I read in the question. Okay, this is the first thing I want to say. The second thing is this. Although you're the breadwinner, your attention to children, you cannot substitute by anyone else. Not your husband, not someone else, but you can do things that no one else can do. And depending on how old the children are, if they are in the mother impact years 0 to 5 years old, you simply must find 1.5 hours, undivided time, no cell phone, no TV, you and the children every day. There must be 1.5 hours between you and the children every day. And your husband, taking care of the children, must do the other things that they have to do then. Wash the floor, wash the dishes, do whatever needs to be done so that you can have that time with your children. That is when they are between 0 and 5. When they are older and it's a father impact years, it's less impactful. So 6 to 11 years old, the impact on the children is not so severe as when you are away when they are small. So in that case, obviously, the father must have that time with them. And then you got to sit with your hubby. Now the Bible says, love him until he changes. Okay? That's in short. The Bible doesn't say it like that, but says you got to love him in such an extent that words would not be even necessary. So I just want to say to this mother, and irrespective of whether he's a believer or not a believer or whatever, but you got to love him. Love is the most powerful thing in the world. You got to love him. I can tell you a story. Let me tell you a very short. I won't tell you the whole story. I don't know if you know about Fidel Castro, the president of Cuba, the previous president of Cuba, died now. Previous president, the first Fidel Castro Sr. Okay, so communist leader, president of. I met his bodyguard in Cuba. He was my own personal bodyguard when I was there. Long story short, not a believer, an atheist. Married a woman who was a believer. I asked her, why did you do this? Because the Bible says, don't do that. She said, God instructed me to marry him. So what could I say? Okay. So after that, she was married with him for 17 years. He says to me, 17 years of hell. He would disappear. He could not even tell her when he would be back home because it was too confidential. For months, and then suddenly he's back home again. But God said to her, you love him and you love him and you love him. Which is what she did. 17 years later, the government found out that he was married with a Christian and said, you divorce your wife or you lose your job and we put you in prison for 2 years. Because of her love, he said, I will not divorce her. He lost his job. They put him in prison for 2 years. After 2 years, he came out. And then, because of the love of his wife, he was reconciled with her. And then the sports star, because he loved sport, got converted. And one day, she introduced him to the sports star, and the sports star led him to Jesus. So when I was there, they were both honoring Jesus. But for 17 years of hell, she had to work for this heaven that she now experiences. One of the most amazing stories you can ever hear anywhere. But that's the true story. So I just want to encourage this mother. May God give you supernatural capacity to, by your example and by your love, that the whole family will ultimately change and you will have that convergence in your life. For now, love him, but also talk to him, not in a derogative way, not in a top-down way. Don't ever allow any feeling to creep into you to say, I am now the one that says what should happen. Never do that. Not from here down. But in a humble way, loving, and maybe God will surprise you with a great experience in your life. Okay?
This is somewhat
Do
similar.
you have something to add?
This is somewhat similar to your story. The person asking, is it possible for a couple coming from different cultural backgrounds to discipline the children if they have totally different values? I think she means, does she have to give up her values and prioritize her husband's values to instill to the children?
Yeah. You see, me and my wife, we came from total different cultures. Yeah, we don't look, I mean, you can see she's beautiful, and I'm from the other culture. Okay. Our language, our mother tongue is totally different. My mother tongue is not English, her mother tongue is English. Okay. So as ek praat, soos wat ek by die huis praat, dan sal niemand van julle my verstaan nie. That's my mother tongue, okay? Got it? No, you didn't. Okay, so that's a different one. And also, my father was strict, and he was the initiator in the house. As she explained this to you, not in a great way always, but that was that. Her father was not strict. He was a happy-go-lucky kind of a man. So her mother wore the pants, as they say. You know, her mother was the... Okay. You jump to a call, is that right? My mother-in-law. Okay. So totally different, and therefore totally different ways of discipline. Completely different. We come from the more Dutch background, which means that we are very straight shooters, like bam, straight. Not come like. She comes from the English background, which means sarcasm, you know. So sarcasm means you come. Don't you think that? And, you know, then you gotta be careful what comes after that. You say, oh, that was nice. Actually means it was terrible. That's sarcasm. You understand? So how do you function in this situation? You understand? So the only thing is this. A united front is so important, what she said. United front is so important. You should have done this before you got married. But now that you are married, you've got to talk about how to discipline children. They should have done it in premarital course. Don't you do stuff like that in the Philippines? Are you just so in love that you can't listen or hear anything for marriage? You should. You know, in Brazil, there's a church where you do not decide when you get married. You only go to the church and you say, we think we want to get married. Then, for instance, do you know each other? Fairly well. Are you married or not? Oh, I didn't want to propose on your behalf, but okay. So, for instance, if they decide they want to get married, then they come and they say this. And then I sit with him, and she sits with her every week in our house. And then I talk with him through everything. And then we decide when they are ready to get married. That's brilliant. You don't think that, eh? Because you bought the American love marriages thing. Is that right? But you know what the divorce rate is in that church? 55,000 members in that church. 0.01%. So they turned history around. You understand? Because of this. And so that should have happened before marriage, that you talk through discipline and how to do the discipline and so on. In this case, come for the training where they teach you how to discipline and then discuss it back home. And although the cultures are different, and sometimes you feel in this way and he feels in that way about things, but for your family, you've got to have a common understanding of values. Because this one cannot say, buy is my biggest value, shopping. And this guy says, serving the poor is my biggest value. You cannot have this. This is, can you understand? If you have this and you do not come to a common thing here, and you say, okay, if we differ so much, you want a little bit of this shopping? Okay, but now we've got to look at the budget. And if this is important to me, then at least this item must be on the budget, if this item is on the budget. So then you come to a compromise in some other way. And when it comes to the values of the discipline of your children, you have to have an absolute united front. The father should be the primary disciplinary figure in the house with the support of the mother, but then you have to know exactly how it should happen. And therefore, every family must have this, that they decide with the children on the four most important things. And how it happened in my life is I did not enforce my values on my children at all. Actually what happened, they enforced their values on me. Because at the first day when my youngest biological child was 3 years old, we asked, what must be the four most important things in our life? And the 3-year-old said, we must feed the poor children. It changed our lives dramatically. I never thought about that ever before. And she got this into our family because all the other 3 children agreed that is more important than buying stuff. And they changed the future of our family. The 3-year-old child changed the future of our family. But then we agreed that these things are important. And when you have your values, so for instance, one of our values is exposure, because we believe that exposure stretches leadership and puts you in a different category of leadership. So I've never bought a new car because all the money, extra money that I had, was to send my children to different countries. Ethiopia, Egypt, India, different countries, so that they can be exposed and understand things, working with people in need. And that stretched their mind, so now they understand the world and they understand the need of the world, so now our values have become similar values through that. But that is a decision of the family, not the father or the mother, but the family together. So I encourage that.
I just want to say that together you must decide on the discipline. So it is a team effort. It's not that this one decides and then I just follow. It must be a team decision, a compromise. Okay. So you must work it out somehow.
And the fortunate thing is, you listen to videos of people talking on this. You can Google and you say, is Google talking nonsense here? Or what is fine in what Google says? Or you listen to the videos when we did the training. They've got the videos available on discipline. See what you agree with, see what you don't agree with, and then come with the discipline policy for the house. Okay?
So questions from the audience? Any more questions?